my channel where we question everything. Today's topic is why I disagree with Brian Berletic and everyone else. This is a continuation of my previous video. Now, I'm referring today to the video that was released by Brian in his channel, The New Atlas, on the 3rd of October, where he basically discussed the current military situation on the front in Ukraine. And then he also talked a little bit about the security, UN Security Council and what happened there. But before I even start that, I would like to go back to my previous videos and what I said about Liman. What I showed you was comments that was made by Kadyrov, the Chechen leader, about why he was angry and why there was no defense in Liman or in the Liman region, and why the Russians actually withdrew from that area and allowed the Ukrainian troops to advance. Now, just to make something clear, I don't know who Kadyrov is. I know he's the leader of the Chechen. He has a big mouth. And, well, he's a lieutenant general in the Russian army, just for instance sakes. But I'm not admiring him of anything like that. For me, he's nothing more like a version of Donald Trump. It's but a military version. And he has the same narcissistic characteristics as Donald Trump. So I don't value much about his opinion. But again, like I've made I started off my channel with two important videos. Yes, if you watch them, don't be too harsh on me. That was my first videos. But the first one was clearly stated that people, you got to listen to what another person says and don't hear what he says. And I also think the same applies to the written word. That means read what there is written and not think what is written. And the second one was that you got to about what is right and what is wrong. And there is such a thing as being right or wrong. And if you want to evaluate somebody's action, then you have to evaluate actions taking this culture in consideration. Because what is right for one culture is wrong for another culture. And this is how you should see it. But in any case, I'm coming back to what Kadyrov really said. And what he has said is that he received a message from the Major General of the Akhmat Special Forces, and he indicated that he didn't get the necessary support, and that he feared that his soldiers will become easy targets, call it sitting ducks, which means that there was a lack of backup, either in the form of reserves, or in the form of aviation support, or in the form of artillery support. But these guys thought that they're going to be sitting ducks. And that was the function of the generals in question. So that's number one that you have to listen very carefully. Then he also, Kadyrov contacted the general, Gerasimov, the head of the forces in Ukraine, and complained about the matter and then he talked about Lapin, the other general that was supposed to do remember he called him by name. And then this general, Gerasimov, replied that he supported Lapin and his qualification. So now there's a conversation, Lapin's name is mentioned. So they were talking about that. And the general confirmed effectively that Lapin was supposed to do the defense of Liman. Later it was said that I didn't show it actually, but there were some reply made by the General Staff. And they said, no. Lapin was not responsible for the defense of Liman. He only controlled a portion of his troops, and they were in reserve in the rear. Now somebody's lying. I hope you listen carefully. Lapin's name was mentioned in the conversation, and later it was stated, no, Lapin was not responsible. But the responsible general, if Lapin wasn't mentioned or wasn't shown to have been responsible, then what other general was responsible for this? But that person is never named. And this is starting to become very fishy. And in the head of the Wagner group, Evgeny Prigozhin, that's difficult to pronounce his name, supported Kadyrov in principle, not in the way that he done it, but in principle, and he has shown his displeasure or his disagreement with a general staff. And that these guys are making decisions without really considering their troops, or the welfare of their troops, or the protection of their troops. And that's why I actually said that all these guys should go to the front with a rifle to see what it is, and then go back to their command, then command the army. Yes. Generals were probably first normal officers, but that was a long time ago, and there was no conflict, so they probably progressed through the ranks by training, but not by war. So don't tell me that these general staffs has a lot of hands-on war experience. And just remember, there's not only one general, or two or three, there are multiple of them. I will just show you again a map of the current situation of the military front lines in Ukraine. And the blue area is basically the territory that has been taken over by Ukraine. And as you can see, this is not a small part. And that is one of the reasons why I totally disagree with all the other commentators. Because they consistently maintain a narrative that all these victories by Ukraine are unimportant. Doesn't matter. Russia is going to retake them. It's insignificant. It's just a strategic battle. It's a political issue. Do I agree with that? No. Do I agree that Russia will take it back? Yes, I do agree with that. But then you have to refight the whole thing. And remember, you have the one guys are defending, the other guys are attacking. And usually the guys that are attacking are experiencing the most losses. So now you have the defending side, the Russians. Ukrainians are attacking. They are losing their equipment and manpower. But just remember, when Russia has to reconquer this area again for the second time, they have to attack and then lose more manpower. Yes, the current form of attrition ensured that they didn't have to lose so many men, and that the casualty rate is a lot lower. But the casualty rate is a lot lower also because they have more advanced and more weapons like artillery and aviation. That's one of the reasons why the casualty figures are so skewed. So I wish people will stop saying about this. This is insignificant area. Even Brian said that they made some inroads into a Kherson area and gained a foothold. I was asking myself, so everything the Ukrainians are doing at this stage is irrelevant, it's nonsensical, it's just a small gains that they are doing, it's a political nature. What? They have been attacking now for How many weeks? No, sorry. It first reversed. So when the Russians attacked at the beginning of the SMO, they moved slowly, and the West was laughing and criticizing. And all of us that sort of understand the situation and pro-Russian and so on, made excuses for the Russian army why they progressed so slowly. And that is all fine. But now the roles have reversed. The Russians are in defense, the Ukrainians are attacking, and they are gaining ground. And now we're still trying to make excuses for the Russian army. Are we not ourselves hypocrites? We always talk about the hypocritical nature of the Western countries, but in the media, but are we not the same? The point here is again that the Ukrainians are attacking and they are gaining ground. And in the north of the front, they're gaining huge swath of lands. And there is not enough defenses by the Russians to stop that offense of Ukrainian forces until now, unless they make a plan. Yes. So Brian goes on and talks about all the losses that the Ukrainian forces are experiencing. Now, firstly, maybe somebody should define to me what are losses. You know, you're losing 100 men of, well, let's say the Ukrainian army states that they have 700 men under uniform, 700,000. Again, Putin said the front is 1,500 kilometers. Other guys said to me it was about 2,000 kilometers. So now you have 700,000 men, and you have a war front of a 2.5, say, okay, let's take it, 1,500 kilometers. And then you have casualties of 100 a day, 200 a day, 500 a day, 1,000 a day. While you are doing an offense, meaning you are exposing your troops to enemy fire, and your casualty rate will go up, because that's the nature of being an offense. And then people just say the Ukrainians are experiencing heavy losses here, heavy losses there. But no numbers are really provided. So what is heavy losses? 1,000 men a day in an offense is nothing. I will just get to that to put another perspective. You can read the briefings of the military department, or the Department of Defense or whatever. I have daily briefings. You know, when they read it, I can read you that briefing, and it sounds like a spreadsheet or a scorecard. You just fill in the numbers. Okay, I'll read someone for you. The Russian Defense Ministry reports on the progress of the special military operation in Ukraine. Every report starts like that. The armed forces of the Russian Federation continue the special military operation. Every report has that line. Then it starts with the Russian Aerospace Force have neutralized the headquarters of the... No. What the hell does neutralize mean? Does it mean destroyed? Or does it mean damaged? Or was it just an attack? It says missile attacks have been launched at the concentration areas of the units of the... And then the main... And it was in the Kharkov region at Kupiansk. Kupiansk is a little bit away from Liman. So it's not really, but it's in the north. The attacks have resulted in the elimination of about 100 servicemen, including foreign mercenaries, and 16 units of military equipment. What does 16 units of military equipment mean? Can anybody tell me what that is? Does it mean just a car or a jeep or a small truck, or does it mean an artillery piece, or what does it mean? So in any case, so we go on. Massive fire attack has been launched at the units of, and then I mentioned, result in the elimination of over 120 nationalists and 40 units of armored equipment. Again, 120, previous guy 100. But just remember, these are missile attacks or fire attacks. These are not defensive actions. Okay, missile attack launched at the manpower and equipment of so-and-so. 90 servicemen have died, 3 tanks and 6 armored vehicles. Missile attacks have been launched at the munition depots of so-and-so in Sub-Region. Remember, this is all over the whole front. There's a little bit about Kharkiv and Liman, only 1 or 2 paragraphs. The rest is of the rest. And says the attack will result in the elimination of over 15 tons of ordnance. What does elimination mean? 15 tons of ordnance of US manufactured HIMARS multiple launch rocket system, as well as 2 Ukrainian M24 combat helicopters. Attacks launched by so they attacked the aviation, attacked things, and they destroyed 9 tanks, 12 infantry combat vehicles, 20 motor vehicles, and up to 257 men. Operational, tactical, and missile troops have neutralized, again, 5 AFU command posts. And then they mention here 157 manpower, military equipment concentration areas. Doesn't say the amount of there. 5 missile, artillery, armament, and munition depots were destroyed. 1 Buk air defense missile system. 1 radar for an S-300, which was also already mentioned in yesterday's report, and I think in the day before. And then we have, no. 2 Toshak U ballistic missile have been shot down in the air. 9 projects launched by Hamas have been air. And now the caveat of the whole report, that's usually the bottom line. In total, 312 airplanes and 157 helicopters have been destroyed. 2,145 unmanned aerial vehicles, 379 air defense missiles, 5,336 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 5,860 combat vehicles equipped with MNRs, 3,445 field artillery cannons and mortars, as well as 6,226 units of special military vehicles. Every day they fill in the report card and they just tick it up. I mean, yesterday they shot and they claimed they shot down an SU-26 and an SU-25, 2 aircrafts. Where the hell do these aircrafts come from? How did you shoot down 312 aircrafts in the late 8 months when Ukraine never had those aircrafts when they started off? And even if they have shot them, do they still have some? Because according to the Russian defense minister, they are still shooting it every day down or every second day down. I mean, come on, 5,000 tanks and armored vehicles. Does nobody question these numbers? And then, okay, yesterday was a bad day for the Ukrainians, or the last 3 days. They lost about 90 tanks. 90 tanks. And then APCs and armored vehicles. Ooh, this is a big loss. But the point here is why do they still have guys still attacking? Do they still have tanks? Yes, they have still attacks. And if you look at this report, then basically you have to ask yourself, so the Russians do a missile attack, pinpoint missile attack on a certain area, and then they destroy tanks and APCs and so on. That means the equipment that stood there has performed no function. It was just destroyed. Or can the Ukrainians elect, hey, I'm not going to sit back and wait until the Russians destroy my tank. I'm going to take my tank, I'm going to drive to the front, and I'm going to shoot at them. And if they then destroy my tank, at least my tank did some work. So the Ukrainians can sit back and wait for the Russians to advance slowly like they did in the last time. Or they can do so and they get annihilated and like the report comes, people die, and they haven't seen even a Russian to shoot at. But the Ukrainian soldiers die. But let me put also this thing in a perspective, another perspective. I can't remember the complete details, whether it was a Ukrainian interview or whether it was a video that was put probably on Telegram or wherever. But in any case, he talked to a Ukrainian soldier, and he was staying in barracks or something like that, a military camp. It wasn't a military camp; it was a complex, and there were 3 buildings. And they slept, and there was a main building and another 2 buildings. And he slept in the one building. And his whole command. Nobody was in the main building. And that night, the Russian had a precision bombing, and they destroyed the main building. And nobody died, because they were all sleeping in a different building. Now, did the Russian defense nurse count those guys on estimated death? But in any case, so the next day, the Russians attacked the other building and destroyed that. But again, the guys were sitting in another building and nobody died. And then that day they went out because there was only a remaining building left, so they left the complex. But nobody has died of the troops. So really, how much of these numbers are really correct? And what does one define as considerable damage? You know, Brian goes on, and he talks about the Ardennes offensive in the Second World War. Now, I told you many times, you cannot compare these things. Technology has changed, tactics have changed, it's not the same thing. But he wants to compare the Ardennes, which is the Battle of the Bulge, at the end of the Second World War, by the counter-offensive by the Germans. That was executed. And he wanted to compare it to these Ukrainian offensive. And he wanted to say, yes, but the Ukrainians are just as desperate and doing a final attack as what the Germans have done. No, it's not the same thing. No. Just so you can go on Wikipedia. I mean, I did it. You can read about that. In fact, just let me give you some numbers. So, this offense started on the 16th of December, 1944, and it ended on the 25th of January. So it was 5 weeks, you can say. So the Germans, in a last attempt to push back the Allied forces, they launched a counter-offensive. And just for the sake, I'm going to give you now, they attacked with 450,000 troops. They had 2,600 artillery pieces. They had 1,400 tanks. That's the Germans. They committed over 1,000 combat aircraft to the counter-offense. And then after 5 weeks, 90,000 casualties. 90,000 casualties. 5 weeks. Now that's a counter-offensive. That is a battle. This is not a battle. This is trying to battle with the equipment that you have available. But I will come to that just now. So, Brian actually states that the whole offensive of the Ardennes was for a political reason. In order to get favorite peace terms, if they drive back the Allied force, they will get favorite peace terms and a settlement, and not a military victory. But you can read Wikipedia. Is everything all right? No, not all accurately, but for the sake of this argument, I don't see the reason why anybody should be lying, but well, we all have different views. So the point here is that Hitler and the German command knew that Germany has lost the war. The Russians were pushing it from the east, and Germany and Hitler at that time had taken command. That he thought that if they could push back the Allied forces in the west, they can get some form of peace agreement or whatever, or at least get a halt to that offensive, and he can take some troops away and take it to the eastern fronts and try to stop the Russian advance. Now, there's one major problem with that, and that is the Allied forces, included Russia. How do you make peace with two members of the Allied forces and then you still keep on fighting against the third one? So either all three had to make peace with Germany, or none would have done it. The Mutual Defense Pact, or four actually, France, Britain, and America. And so I'm not sure why they thought that the Ardennes was a political issue. It was a large-ditch effort. It's a gamble of all or nothing. That was the Ardennes and the Bulge. They threw everything into the fight, and if they were not unlucky due to certain events, then they would have made it. And once the kind of thing starts, and the other guys are rolling back, and then you chase them, and that's it. Anyways, so we go back, and then Brian calls up. Oh, I'm sorry. The guys are going to get T-55 tanks, which apparently have been upgraded in 1990. And this is a big issue. T-55. Ooh, they are old. They must belong in a museum. But nobody remembers that a couple of months back, the Russians brought T-60s in. And that decision was defended by all these punters. So what's the difference between a T-60 and a T-55? And the number is 5, and probably 5 years difference, but what the hell? So don't downgrade the T-55. It still has a cannon, and it still has a machine gun, and it still has armor. And if you have a pea shooter, then you're going to die because you cannot shoot them through that armor. And if you don't have an anti-tank gun, it doesn't matter what tank is in front of you, you will die. And even if you have an anti-tank gun, you can kill you with a... let's take any, I don't know all these weapons, but let's take a new generation of RPG-7. That's the only thing I really know. And that thing can penetrate the T-70 and it can penetrate the T-55. So it doesn't matter which tank you sit in, you will die. And then apparently there's a video of I don't know, T-55 or T-80. Yeah, Russians brought in some T-80, modified, upgraded T-80s. And there was the first battle tank battle. And the T-80 shot the Ukrainian down. Ooh, wow, ooh, the T-80 is superior. Yes, it might be superior, but if the T-55 was his cannon, sees the T-80 first and shoots first and has a bullseye shot, then that T-80 is done. It's gone. Never mind the technology. The only question is that the projectile that the T-55 shoots, is it sufficient and of modern enough standard to kill the T-80? That's all that you have to wonder about. So I don't understand why people are going about the T-50 when the Russians did the T-60, T-55. Come on, people. You've got to be consistent about this whole matter. In any case, so now we have the question of, Ukraine is putting all this manpower onto the battlefront, and they're being annihilated, and they are losing tanks and people, and this is terrible. And it's all for political purposes. Now, our friend, with whom I have talked about that, and we both agree on the same matter. That's why I refer to my video. You got to look at the culture. Now, whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know. But we both agreed that the Russians know what it means to fight and die, and they will pay the country, they will defend the country in blood. And what it effectively means is that Russia will put 10,000 troops on the front, and he's willing to sacrifice each one of them and let them die in order to protect. And all of those 10 men will be willing to die. The same cannot be said of the West. The West will not put 10,000 troops there. And whatever troops they will try to protect and not die them because the body bag and then the political problems and all that other stuff. The problem with this argument is, well, that's not a problem is you have to expand it a little bit. Are we not all saying that the Ukrainians and the Russians are brothers and of the same Slavic heritage? So if the Russians are doing it, then the Ukrainians are also willing to do that. And the Ukrainians will also put 10,000 men on the border, on the front, and offer to sacrifice them for the sake of their country. So what are we talking really about? Don't evaluate the death on Western standards, in Western culture. I feel sorry for the guys, because I'm a Westerner. And I don't see the I've been sorted out about the whole story about war, but the problem, I don't see always why it has to be like this, but sometimes it has to be like that. But I'm feeling sorry for because I'm a Western culture. And so are you, and so are you all thinking about. But it's not on. You've got to see that in the culture of the Ukrainians and the Russians. And now Brian goes on and says, this is all for political benefit. It has no strategic value. It has, the Ukrainian army won't be able to support the line. And Russia will reconquer everything that he has, what he's lost now. Probably, yes. When the 300,000 reserve come up, then Russia will proceed and conquer. And, you know, I fully agree. The outcome of the war, as is, has been predetermined. There's no way that Ukraine can win this war as of now. And I believe that all these territories will be recovered, but at what cost? Number one. And the people that had been living there and supporting the Russians, at what cost are they paying the price? And are the supply lines of the Ukrainians really stretched? Where's that proof? Because we said the same thing when they took over Izium. Oh, the supply line is stretched 70 kilometers. The Russians are going to attack the supply lines. Well, what happened? I've heard nothing about that. There was no mentioning of any of those things in the daily briefings. So the Russians didn't report, and if they didn't report, then they didn't do it. So what makes you think that the Ukrainians cannot maintain their supply lines? They have done it until now because they have transported foreign weapons and supplies from the West right up to the front without being destroyed by the Russians, which we all said they're going to do. Now, how many kilometers are that? 3,000 kilometers? So what makes you think that they cannot maintain the supply line? They cannot support the areas and defend the areas that they gained. Any case, so then we have the matter about the political gains. And basically, Zelensky is, well, the Ukrainian army is losing so many hardware. And it's doing all these attacks for political reasons. Well, firstly, yes and no. No, because the Ukrainian army had to do something. You cannot just retreat. You have to sometimes stop the Russians and go forward and do a counterattack. I mean, how are you going to fight a war where you always retreat? You've got to attack somewhere, sometime, and that's what they're doing now. So that's why I said it's partially no. But I say also, yes, it's important for political reasons. It's important to motivate and maintain the support of the Ukrainian nation. It's important to maintain the the Western nations narrative. Yes, they have economic problems. Yes. I'm not going to talk about that now. We'll talk about just now. And what does Ukraine really do? What does Zelensky do? He doesn't ask, please give me some weapons. Please give me some tanks. Can you please? When I'm gonna, he's talking about, when can I get my tanks? When are you going to help me with money? He's now said, he sort of scolded the European Union. He wants that money to be approved because he needs that money to pay the soldier. He's not asking, he's demanding it. And so he has demanded of the whole West. He's not asking for that. And if you don't agree to that, then you are cancelled. You are bad mouth as much as you can. But that's bad. So let me volunteer an alternative. So the Western, the Eastern Bloc countries have no more weapons to give Russian weapons, Soviet weapons to Ukraine. And now the Western people have no more weapons to give to Ukraine. And I'm telling you that's a lie. The West have given only their junk, the discontinued items. The Eastern Bloc countries like Poland and Czech and so on have given their stock that they had. They gave their real arm away. So they contributed. And then we have the story, yeah, but the Ukrainians can only use the Soviet guns. Okay. So Poland had how many tanks? 400, 500 tanks? And they gave half of Ukraine. Okay. So they can give the other half as well. And just demand that the Western supplies them now with Western weapons. There's no reason why they can't do it. And like every Western bloc can supply all their Soviet military equipment to Ukraine, because NATO always insisted that you have to have a NATO standard. And you got to integrate the equipment with NATO equipment. So why aren't you trying to mix old Soviet equipment into NATO? So, hey, it's going to stimulate the American economy, military complex. But the point here was really, before I actually got a little bit forward out of switch stuff over. What I actually wanted to say is that maybe the suggestion I wanted to say, the alternative thinking, the questioning of as per channel, maybe Zelensky does intentionally attack. He has to attack, one, in order to maintain the propaganda. He has to attack and gain ground, which he's doing, in order to show that the Ukrainian army is capable of doing that. And that means you can support the Ukrainian army. They are worth it, because they can fight the Russians and they can drive them back. And it's not a Mickey Mouse story. Oh, the Russians didn't have enough defense there and it was spacing. Bullshit. The reality you can see on the map. Huge pieces of area. That's not a small thing anymore. But in any case, so Ukraine, and the third item Zelensky does, let's put the hardware on the front. They're either going to be destroyed in storage by Russian precision missiles, or we use them in the front and we attack and we try to break through and try to get a military objective, and then we lose the equipment like that. And if all the question, if I don't have any tanks anymore, then Zelensky is going to say, okay, and now the whole other thing comes in. There is no more SMO. That has changed a week ago, when the two provinces, the republics and the two provinces were incorporated. The military objective of Russia has changed. And then one understands, now, forget about Zelensky. Now you look at Russia and you look at NATO. For Russia, this battle has become existential. It's, you live or you die. That's it. NATO is still, maybe I want to fight Russia and I want to bleed Russia, and he's living in this fantasy world and can't make a decision and so on. But now he has been forced into decision making. And Zelensky is going to force NATO into decision making. When Zelensky runs out of military equipment, artillery, tanks, doesn't matter what it is. He showed he can do it with the right equipment. That is what they have shown. All this stuff is gone, which is natural in any battle. You will lose equipment. Then NATO has to decide what are they going to do. Remember, we still have some months go where Poland can give his own weapons until all Soviet weapons are done. And at one stage, they have to go back to Western NATO-equipped equipment. And then they have to provide. So then the West have to decide, are they going to commit or are they not going to commit? If they don't commit, that's the end of Ukraine. But is that their real objective? And if they're going to commit, how are they going to do it without creating a world war? And it's not that difficult really to see. We're all expecting nuclear Armageddon. Both countries will have tried to avoid nuclear Armageddon. Then we will be physically like similar to what we're having now. So, but that is still far away. Only if not the ones. But they can. Firstly, we talk about, the Western weapons are so difficult and the Ukrainians are not trained in that, and no, they cannot use the weapon. People, are there 777s there? Yes. Are there javelins there? Yes. Are there any law there? Yes. Are there stingers there? Yes. And I can't remember all the whole list. We can look up the list of equipment that was sent. Drones, commercial drones. Come on, people. The Ukrainian army have shown they can do it. And what's the difference between an Abrams tank and a T-70? There's a driver. There's a guy that sights it. There's a guy probably that reloads the gun. And maybe the commander. I don't even know how many people are in the tank. 3 or 4. And you can pick. You are a tank driver. It's like driving a bike. It's just the bike is a little bit different. But if you can ride a bike, you can ride a bike. And just for the sake, as far as I remember, but I'm talking about 30, 40 years ago, I read somewhere that the Russian tanks were built to shoot 15 rounds. They were not built to last, and the reason why they were not built to last was they didn't expect any tank to survive more than 15 shots in a battle. Now, I work also in the arms industry. I've seen some Russian weapons. They are crude. They are seriously crude. But they all work. So, stop talking about this excuse of modern weapons. People are not dumb. They will not use it to 100% effectiveness, but sitting in tank is still better for us than walking on or sitting in an APC. Having a flipping big gun to shoot back is, use a tank as mobile artillery there. Give them the lowest grade Abrams tanks, the older Abrams tanks, and slowly move them up to the modern tanks. Surely the Americans have not. But in any case, and then we talk about the economy, and then we're going to talk about, manufacturing wartime. But once NATO makes a decision, they will slowly start up their wartime manufacturing capabilities. And they will start supplying that. How it will proceed, I don't really know. But in any case, just for the sake of it, so Brian also talked about how the T-80s is going to come to the front, and they've been refurbished, even according to the article about sanctions and so on. But the problem here is, not the problem is, but the fact is that the Russians didn't stock up on just in time. I once read an article where they were talking about the microchips and so on, and they have a 1.5 year supply of that. So, when it comes to military aspects, it's not like that, what we usually think of. So my argument is that people should start thinking a little bit further, stop talking the narrative that everybody else is talking, try to ask the questions. Am I right or am I wrong? I don't know. What I do know is that I have a lot of questions and very few answers. That's my story for today. So if you liked it, press the like button. Didn't like it, don't press the button. And come on, people, subscribe. I would like to grow the channel. Press the subscribe button. The more subscribers, the more I will be motivated. Well, I'm already motivated in any case, but the more I will be pleased, and you will let me feel good. Then until next time, yes.